to round out our understanding of this amazing painted chamber, I want to talk a little more about the patron. The Marquis of Mantua needed to enhance his majesty, like the Duke of Urbino, but not in this case because of a suspicious murder with a pruning hook. Mantua was on a lake surrounded by swamps with frequent malaria outbreaks. It was not that wealthy. So when the Pope visited, he complained that the city was damp, excessively humid, and unhealthy. Many of his courtiers came down with fever. The streets were muddy. He couldn't sleep, he wrote, because the constant croaking of the frogs in the surrounding lake was annoying. So if you really don't have a spectacularly lovely landscape, why not make a spectacular interior space? This room, this painted room, this interior fantasy world took Mantegna 10 years to complete. And he started with the illusionistic ceiling, the pretend marble busts, the elaborate stucco moldings, and of course the amazing oculus. He also then went on to give family portraits in action. And so we get the Gonzaga family and their courtiers, who look like Castiglione could definitely be commenting on how appropriate or not, how perfect or not they are as courtiers. Look at how this guy holds his gloves. Look at the look on his face. Would Castiglione say that this is striking the right pose? Here's the Marquis, his wife, who knew this was the origins of the hairstyle for Princess Leia in the first Star Wars. And then we've got even the favorite dog of the Marquis, who was named Rubino. They're all assembled in this garden, indoor loggia space. A point I want to make is that the Duke is actually receiving a letter. It is from the Duke of Milan. It actually can be read if you see this painted room in person. It's dated. It is dated of December 1461. So the Marquis is receiving urgent news. It's actually coming from the Duchess of Milan that the Duke of Milan is on the brink of death. And Ludovico, who was the Duke's Condotierre, needs to be ready to defend Milan from possible invasion because the transfer of power is vulnerable at the moment just after the Duke of Milan dies. So this is clearly an advertisement for his in-demand services as a reliable condottiere. So in terms of advertising how powerful and well-connected this family dynasty is, this scene, known as the meeting scene, shows the Duke as if he were out going towards Milan, and he conveniently happens to meet his sons, Francesco and Federico, his heir, at the border of Mantua and the Milan territories. Now, Francesco had just been elevated to the rank of cardinal in the Catholic Church, a princely status enhancing the power of the family dynasty. And this meeting actually has the King of Denmark present because he's brother-in-law of Ludovico's wife. And so I'm basically making a point. I don't want you to memorize all these people's names, but the point is, look at how much the connections of power and family are emphasized, are recorded, commemorated, and advertised. Neither of these two princes were actually present at the occasion. There are children shown here who were not actually born when this event involving the letter took place. So this seems so realistic with its powerful naturalism, but of course it's an invention. And it's a purposeful invention to give off the aura of majesty and the aura of a family that is truly holding the reins of power in multiple ways. And I definitely want to underscore how incredibly important this ceiling is. As Stockstead and Cawthron write, this unbelievable invention of an illusionistic sculptural ceiling with an illusionistic space with figures who seem to look down, this begins what will become a tradition of ceiling decoration that's highly competitive. Michelangelo gets in on the game, but many others do as well. And I do want to add that in addition to sort of the humor of the little babies that are standing and look like they could pee or poop on you, the planter, the kind of mischievous looks in the faces of people here, I want to connect this oculus to what you learned about in the courtier. Remember that Baldassare Castiglione said that a courtier should, I'm quoting here, with proper devices, apt poses, and witty inventions, draw the eyes of the lookers-on as the magnet attracts the iron. This idea of being looked at, of drawing people towards you to make them pay attention to you, to be impressed by you, this was central to court life, where you had to be noticed and you had to make an impression. And we should take that idea of making an impression, drawing the eyes of the onlookers, we should take that back to Mantegna. He actually painted himself in a self-portrait, a witty, inventive, amusing self-portrait into some of the what appeared to be the scroll work molding, the decorative sculptural elements. He himself rose to a level of art making where he is almost, you could say, like a courtier in that he's showing sprezzatura, a term that Castiglione uses. The idea of making difficult things look easy. This is an incredibly difficult compositional, perspectival task to make this kind of illusionistic space work. Making something incredibly difficult look easy. And so this is showing us that actually artists are beginning to be recognized in new ways. He is recognized so much for the inventione, the inventiveness of this room with its oculus, that he actually will receive a courtly title. He will become knight. He didn't actually originally want to be a court artist. It's tough being a court artist because you just basically take orders. You're a glorified servant. He has so impressed his master that his master, the Marquis of Mantua, is actually elevating him from the status of a commoner to an aristocrat.